Welcome to the Bobby Kudo Show, where we dive into the fascinating world of human experiences and excellence. With special guests, real-life anecdotes, and thought-provoking discussions. Get ready to unlock and tap into your absolute potential with your host, manifestation coach, Bobby Kudo.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome episode 95 of the Bobby Kudo Show. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to be in Studio B with the 45th Mayor of Fall River, Massachusetts, Paul Coogan. Sir, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Bobby.
I want to shake your hand, sir.
Oh, thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you for your service. You've been here for a long time, and not only that, you've committed a long time to this city. Many will come in and leave and go. But you've been here for the long haul, sir. There are a lot of things I learned about you that I didn't know. I know that we are currently in a realm. So a good friend of mine, quick story, a good friend of mine said to me, Bobby, if you ever want to destroy half of your audience, just get into politics, right? And it really is the truth, because for every person, there's another person that is going to oppose everything. And when I think, and I'll say this out loud, I think a lot of it is unfair. You get a lot of unfair criticism. I think it's easy to point the finger when everything is going around. And I think if people actually took the time, like I did, to do the research and look at your history and see what you've actually contributed to the city, I think a lot of them would have a change of heart. I really do. I think things happen in life and directions change and you have to be nimble and you pivot. And I will say that it was very clear that that's exactly what you had to do. So real quick, 1980s to 2015, over 30 years in the education system of Fall River. How many kids would you say you've impacted?
Thousands.
Thousands.
That's what it's like. And it's hysterical to me because people underestimate the power of being in education that long. I mean, like you said, for example, when you're at Durfee High School, you're rolling 500-600 new faces through that school every year when the freshmen get there and the seniors leave, and you meet their parents and you meet their relatives and you see them at the sporting events and the dances and the functions. And it's just a privilege to have been able to work with those kids that long. I never even, when I was there, I never took time off. Matter of fact, some years, as crazy as it sounds, I turned some of my personal days back in because I didn't even use them. I stayed there all the time. I had perfect attendance most years, but I loved being there. It was a great, what it is? I always tell kids, no matter what you do, get yourself a job you like, because if you like your work, you're going to excel at it and you're going to do a good job.
100%.
But if you do it for money, after a while, it's going to wear on you. And you're going to make a good living, but it's going to just lead to some discontent in your life. If you're happy, you'll get by.
That's always the mantra here. Money's a byproduct. Do what you love, and the money will come.
Exactly
and it's
right.
funny because again, 30 years in the education system, so you've got children that now have the children of their own, and probably grandchildren at this point,
Absolutely.
right?
It's
So to see that whole the impact that you have.
Right.
I mean, because I'm a strong believer that the children are the future. I mean, when you invest in our children, the growth is exponential. You're never going to get more return on investment than investing in the people that are going to make the difference in our lives.
Only shot we got.
Yeah. So 2016 comes along, and you're like, I'm not done yet. Let me get into the school committee.
Yeah.
So you join the school committee. What's that like?
Well, because of my background in education, it was kind of a natural fit. I had my own set of ideas of what we should be doing to improve education for the kids. I knew most of the people in the district. When you have administrators workshops, you get together from all the schools. Opening day, you're with all the teachers. You see these people around the city all the time. So I was very comfortable fitting into that role, and I had a lot of fun doing that.
And that was your first introduction into politics?
No, not really, because when I used to live in Somerset, I ran for the Diamond School Committee over there because I wanted to get involved. I was on the Diamond School Committee for 6 years. A few years I was chairman. I had a lot of fun with that, and it gave me exposure to the vocational side of education, which is extremely important. And
Sure.
Now at Durfee, in our new building, we have 9 voc programs there too, which again, I appreciate the fact that kids get hands-on skills to make a living.
For real, and I think that's what's missing in Durfee, right? For all those years, the old Durfee, right? Well, there was two old Durfees, but the old Durfee that I remember, it was the lack of having the opportunity to get into some of these trades, right?
Have you been in the New Durfee?
I have not been to the new Durfee yet.
Oh, you should let me take you through.
I would love to do that.
You would absolutely.
I will take you up on that.
You would collapse.
I would love to do that.
It's absolutely spectacular. And to see those vocational shops you were just talking about, you're going to go, you got to be kidding me, because we'll have kids coming out of our cosmetology program that get the same exact hours, certificate, and license that these kids get out here at Paul Mitchell or whatever that is, Rob Roy.
See, that's the setup to success right there. That's what I'm talking
about. They get
about.
something
Right
in
there.
their hands they can use,
right.
and it's great.
Yeah. What other trades are they offering there?
We actually have a great trade, culinary. We have our own restaurant. We have a great culinary department. We have a partnership with the laborers union where we have a construction business where those kids can transition right into the laborers union. I went to a function up there put on by the laborers union where they were giving awards to some of their kids that are in that program. And I don't know if you know what it's like now, Bobby, but you get into a union laborer's position, you're starting in the high 20s.
Absolutely.
And so you can buy a house.
Yeah.
You can buy a car. You can contribute and live a good life. But there are, I can't even think of them all. There's a few technology ones. There's some computer ones. It's something to see.
Local 610 when I was 18 years old.
There you go.
So I can appreciate what the union did for me and what the union does for many people, especially in the trades. You know, it's just it's amazing to get through this because a lot of things I'd love to talk to you about. A lot of people aren't aware, like they don't know. I think the obvious is always in the air, right? What you see is obvious, but what's happening in the background, right? So if you were to ask some of these children that are leaving the school at this point or graduating from the school at this point, they're saying, well, the opportunity for me was much more different than it was for my parents years ago, right? Because I think we went from, I don't know if you'll agree, but an industrial textile city, right? Like when we had Quaker Fabric here, when we had Joe and Fabrics here, it was Duro, right? It was very easy for us to get into that realm of work, right? I mean, I think a lot of the Portuguese people, my parents included, built their wealth from Quaker Fabric.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so, it served its purpose. And then all of a sudden, one day, knock, 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 the place is out of business, right? So you've got, 2,000 people out of work. So then the city of Fall River says, hey, wait a minute, we're going to do right by everyone. If you all agree to go to some type of education, right, through unemployment, whether it be learning how to read. My mom can speak and read and write English right now because of this program. And she was in that transition. She was almost ready to retire, maybe 5 years. She took advantage of that opportunity. She got educated, and she didn't lose her pay. And she got her Social Security. My mom is 81 years old, Mayor. My mom is 81 years old, and she's a success story from the city.
Very nice.
You know what I mean? I am an Azorian immigrant. My parents are Azorian immigrants. I'm first generation, sir.
Nice.
I am proof positive that you can build something great here.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, I just want to thank you for that because you're along the way of that. You know what I mean? And your predecessors as well.
Absolutely.
And so here we are, right? 2020. 2019, it's December. You become the mayor of Fall River. All of a sudden, COVID happens, right? All of a sudden, the marijuana industry is happening. And I say to myself, I don't think people realize what you had handed to you when you came into office. Quite frankly, monumental tasks and tasks that have never been handled before. We didn't know how to manage the marijuana industry, right? How do you hand out licenses? Who gets it? Who doesn't get it? How do you manage all this tax money? And so here you are, a new, fresh mayor, and you handed all this. What is that like?
Well, I'm a firm believer in you have to go to work every day and you got to figure it out. So what happened, for example, let's look at the marijuana industry. My predecessor had given out 14 licenses. I've never given out a license. I'm still working through his 14. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by giving out a license is he would give a letter from the mayor's office authorizing Bobby Kudo to get a license. Mm-hmm. So that's how it works. So we didn't have to do that. A few of the licenses have been transferred, but I've never gone above that 14 number. Mm-hmm. And then you look at how you're going to work with them. At the time, they used to give the city $50,000 you were allowed to take as an application fee. You were getting 3%, but all those regs changed too, right. And that money dried up. So I was like, what are we doing? Because at one time we wanted to put a panel together to evaluate licenses, and then when I realized we weren't giving out any licenses, we didn't need a panel. I'm like, we're not going to give any out. We can't do it.
Right.
So
Right.
that kind of took care of itself. It still gives us, I mean, $1.5 million, $1.6 million. Sometimes I read people, where'd the marijuana money go? It's right in the budget. You have to list all the revenue that comes in.
Yeah,
and
Mayor
it's
Coogan, you know what I think? I think people were thinking it was going to be a lot more. I think that's what I think.
That's what happened.
Yes.
3-4 million a year.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Right.
We never got that.
Right.
And
You made that number up.
Well, the
Nobody
marijuana,
knows. Right.
the marijuana business, as you know, is kind of flattened out.
Yes.
Now, a lot of places are like a little tentative about it. It's not what it was. I mean, when we first got into it, it was Northeast Alternatives up on the Ave, and the cars were backed up through Tiverton. But that's kind of all died down, and now you pull up and get marijuana in a number of places. Yeah,
right.
and it's the
Right.
way it is.
Right.
And then COVID hit, and I remember I was watching TV with my wife, and I was watching, there's a disease in Washington, D.C. that's killing people in nursing homes. And I was like, what's that all about? Because just like everybody else, I was curious. And that thing swept right across the country. And we were like, what are we going to do? There was like a week, maybe 2 weeks of stuff where they were talking about, you may shut down, we're going to stay open. Then on one day they said, okay, close everything down. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Are we paying these people? Is anyone coming to work? Who's working? What about our police? What about our fire?
Right.
And then you kind of just all of a sudden they'd put you on a lot of conference calls. And I got to say, Charlie Baker and Karen Polito was spectacular with us. It was something to learn on the job at the time. I mean, at some points I was delivering bags of groceries to people. We had people like Clearview Manufacturing, our mattress place, making masks because they ran out of masks right away. I remember selling boxes of them to South Coast. We had a company down on Slade Street making hand sanitizer because that ran out right away.
Wow. Homegrown
Stuff. And Fall River pulled together. We worked our way through it. It was just very, very treacherous for a long time. I remember going to UMass Dartmouth where we set up that temporary hospital, walking around with Charlie Baker, and I'm saying, please, dear God, I hope we never need this. There was rows and rows of portable toilets, showers all outside and all bunks inside, cots, I mean. But we never got to it, thank God. But it was coming. Our hospitals were calling us saying, we're full. Don't send anybody. I got one bed here. And it was something to behold. And it wasn't, like I said, I didn't feel uncomfortable doing it because you knew you had one goal, and that was just try to keep people safe.
Sure.
And get through this because it was going to end. Yeah. And it ended, and now we got through it. But it was a wild, wild ride in the city of Fall River.
Yeah, but has it ended though? So, and the reason I make my comment is this: it's like, much like those ginormous oil tankers in the ocean, right?
Yep.
What's it take, like 15 miles for them things to stop, right?
Yep.
Like kind of like to base it on this idea where we had COVID, it happened, we made so many changes, right? We had to make harsh, real decisions, right? Here we are. I mean, we're like 4 years later, 5 years later. Like there's still residual of that, right? I mean, and
they say it's bubbling up now again.
That's what I'm saying. And
but
so
it's not what it was.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? Perfect example of this, right? You think you can get ahead of this. I worked for a company that did distribution for a large, let's say Christmas tree shops. They're no longer in business. I used to run the distribution center for them.
Okay.
And so COVID happened, right? So after COVID happened, one of our retailers called and said, "Hey, listen, I've got cases and cases of water. It's all good water. It's pallets and pallets of it. If you guys want it, we'll give it to you at like 1% cost. Just because we've got so much of it, we got to move it out." Of course, we're like, we'll take all of it, not knowing any better. So they bring these pallets and pallets of water into the warehouse. The water was sitting for so long, mice had gone in there and burrowed in there. It literally infested the whole building. Like, so you think my point in saying this is you think you're getting ahead of these things and you're like, oh, wow, this all worked out. And at the end, there are things that are hidden in the backside that you never even seen coming. Right. And so, like, to my point, it's like, I think places like the Flint, right? You had so much thriving business there, and then COVID happens, and then, people can't function anymore. And a lot of these brick and mortars are, hey, I got to walk in. Like, it can't be a DoorDash. Like, if I'm going to go in and I'm going to try on a dress for a wedding, then, she needs to walk in the building. If I'm going to try on a suit, I need to walk in the building. And those places just couldn't function anymore, right? So I guess the long end of it here is, how do we bring them back, right? How do we entice these people to be like, hey, listen, we were thriving here once. we can bring this all back.
Right. I think that is going to be one tremendous lift. My friend had a great store in Swansea, Tickles. Remember that store and all the little rick-rack and all the things?
Yeah.
And she said at the end, I mean, she closed up now. She's turned it into a restaurant. She's still doing very well, so it's not like anything was bad. But she said in the end, when people would come in to look at her items, they'd look on the phone and see if they could get it cheaper somewhere else. And they'd put in the actual item number and code, and it would say $8 on the shelf there. I can get it for $6. I'm not buying it here. Yeah. She said that you'd see people shopping with their phones. And I think that that's what's happened. You look at the Amazons, the eBays, all these online realtors, retailers. Yeah. You can't imagine the number of business they're doing. I mean, it's crazy. I went to the Dartmouth Mall the other day because it was raining with my wife for a walk. Is that still open? And it's full, pretty much full. Yeah. But there wasn't a lot of people there. Right. So I don't know how we're going to get them back. But with that being said, we do have to get them back, and that's why we're putting so much work into the Flint right now. We would literally incentivize people to move into some of those storefronts up there, which is going to be the next stop. We're doing some storefronts now. Yeah. We have some buildings in our sites that we're going to help renovate or knock down. We have some people that are interested in property there. And we know it's exactly what you said, Bobby. We got to get some foot traffic up there. The Flint has some little incentives with no parking meters, and people can pull up and go shopping. So we got to get that going again. It's something very similar to downtown. These are areas that I think fell on hard times, both with the online market and the lack of people going out to stores. But it's not something you throw your hands up and quit. We're working
but there is success, right? If you look at Harbor Mall and what that was now, it's a South Coast shopping center. Is that and now you look at that and say to yourself, I remember Kmart. We used to go for breakfast at Kmart, and then nothing for so long. And now it's buzzing. Like, you got to wait. I mean, you can't get in, you can't get out.
All those stores are ranked high. Like, I think Market Basket is number 7 in the chain. Those stores are all ranked high in their ratings for their companies because there's a lot of foot traffic. There's a lot of people in there. And I'll tell you a story about that. I went up there with my wife one day, and she had never eaten a Chick-fil-A, so we walked in. And we go in the restaurant, and there's a bunch of young girls there. They're probably 16, 17, looked like a volleyball team or something. So I thought it was Durfee kids. So I said, hi, how are you guys doing? Oh, man, where are you from? They said, Portsmouth. I said, Portsmouth? They said, we're on the basketball team. I said, oh, you look like athletes. I'm standing there with my wife. And I said, you come up here from Portsmouth? We love coming here. We shop here all the time. And I said to myself, that's perfect.
That's exactly
what you want.
I said, have a nice day,
guys. And I walked away.
That's a win.
It's a win.
That's an absolute win.
It's an absolute win.
And so, like, on the back of that, I'd like to talk about South Coast, right? And what happened with Steward Health Care Group, right? And so now it's Brown, and I believe Brown came in. Like, you had something to do with that, right? What, again, that's one of the biggest hospitals around. I mean, St. Anne's Hospital, that's a juggernaut in our city. Much like Morton, that hurts that community. That Morton Hospital, it's almost shut down. There's nothing going on there. Right. And so when I think to myself, gee, what would have been the city if we didn't have St. Anne's Hospital? And you negotiated that. There was a lot of...
Well, it was... I don't negotiate things like that alone, but it's a lot of input. It's the interaction. When John Fernandez came in from Brown Health, we got to have a lot of good discussions. And at the time... I mean, at one point, South Coast was interested, I believe, in buying St. Anne's also. And I wasn't against anything. We just wanted to have people looking at that as a medical facility to keep those people working. I mean, I was out picketing with the union out there to try to make sure that we kept those jobs in the city of Fall River. Very, very important. South End Hospital. And we're blessed with that because we literally are not many cities our size that have 2 hospitals like South Coast and St. Anne's.
Right.
And
well, then you got Primacare.
Primacare is almost like a hospital,
right?
Too.
Like, it's pretty much a hospital. I drove through that parking lot today, and again, packed. You know what I mean? People are literally waiting to pull out of parking spots.
And if you look at what's going, I mean, again, I'm blessed because I get to go into these buildings, and Richie Matus that runs Primacare, the people have to understand the significance of what's happening here. Mm-hmm. The 5th floor of that building has been completely leased by Northeastern University. They're going to open an RN program in our city. They're opening one in Charlotte and Burlington, Mass. And Fall River. And that's going to let 60 students a year become RNs. Right here, they're going to, and they're still talking about some dormitory work to go on. And the floor above it is a training center for surgeons. They actually have classes and, bodies and everything. I went up there and I'm like, wow, this is going on right in our city. And, people don't get to see it, but I'm blessed that I get to do it. And I'm saying, people knew this stuff was going on.
There's a
right
lot
here.
going on here. I walked the trail the other day from Meditech and walked it over. And as I was walking, I looked, and it looked to would be like a mini submarine. These two guys are sitting there playing with it. And I'm like, wow, I'm a tech geek. And I'm like, wow, what is that, guys? He goes, oh, it's a sonar system and we develop. I'm like, you guys do that here? He's like, oh, yeah, we develop all this. He's like,
Right on Southwood Tupper.
yeah, he's like, we got government contracts. I'm like, and this is the stuff that nobody knows. You know what I mean? This is just the things nobody.
I got to tell you today what I was fortunate enough, Bobby, mind-numbing. So as everyone knows, and between Bedford and Pleasant, TACO just did a major expansion.
Yes,
So we had
yes.
a ribbon cutting today there.
Yeah.
And I got, again, to walk around. So they make 12,000, 20,000 water tanks. And I'm like, well, who uses these? What are they for? Yeah. They're for cooling systems for data storage plants. And they hire, the guy was raving about the students from Diamond and the number of kids in there working there. They starting welders at like $27 an hour. A lot of guys on the floor making $50 an hour. And he said, we got more work than we can handle. We had to expand here. We love Fall River. We love the way the city treats us. And it's just a major industrial building right down on that corner.
And it's funny. I had some experience in that building. I knew what it was before, and I got quick eyes on it now. Amazing. Like the technology, the way that they organize that place. And
it's wild.
What a success story, right? And it's not just them. If you go up to Airport Road, you've got the industrial park. There's a lot of industry in the city. So my question to you is, how do we get more? How do we bring in more industry?
Well, again, the problem, one of the problems we're fighting is space, because the industrial park is almost full right now. We have an announcement probably coming up within the next few days about the first piece being sold along 79, which again will provide jobs for people. And I put a high premium on construction jobs in the city. Yeah. It's one of the things we end up disagreeing with people about when they're talking about housing. I'm saying, well, you have to understand, if Bobby Kudo says I'm doing a $50 million development, for some reason some people in Fall River think, oh, he's making $50 million. No, he's not making $50 million. He's going to make a percent of that, but the majority of that's going to salaries and to supplies that keep other people working. Yeah. So industry in the city of Fall River, if you go out far enough in Industrial Park, you'll see a huge plant going up there by Freeze Pack. The company that bought that land, trying to think of it, has 3 or 4 more spaces. There's another plant going up that Jonkus is doing right on the left there. So there's still growth going on in the industrial park, and we are actively recruiting companies, obviously. Sure. We have trouble when we're competing against the Mississippis and the South Carolinas, but we know the key to a thriving city is getting enough people in their jobs. Sure. And if it's small business, we love them. Yeah. And if it's a large company like TACO, we love that too. Yeah. Well, you also need the populace, right? You can bring any business you want, but if you got nobody to work, then it just doesn't work. And I think those are the details that people don't realize. Right. Everybody can have an opinion, everybody can have criticism, but they don't understand the actual detail that goes into putting something like that together. But I believe it all starts with an idea, right? So, just real quick, fun question. Do you have any fun projects, stuff that you're like, wow, I really like to see this happen in the city? It's funny because Carlos was sitting and he mentioned something, and I'm just only going to mention it because I thought it was really cool. And he's like, we have the battleship, right? He's like, what if we did a show down there? What if we had like water cannons that, you did like a show and people running around and you almost did it like a Disney kind of, and I'm like, you know what? I never even thought of that. What a cool idea, right? That is so funny because when I was a kid, we were in North Carolina, and the USS North Carolina, I think it was in Wilmington, they did a show every night. They'd fire the guns, they'd have sound effect, here come the Japanese, and they were making it like it was a war zone, and some guy would jump in the water, and it was just a wild show. Yeah. But what we're doing, for example, what we've done with the Norton City Pier, and if you had the opportunity to go to a couple of our concerts there, and if what we did with the 4th of July, we're going to carry that into the fall now and through the winter. The Carousel now with its ice cream, and Carl, who owns the Grist Mill, Tipsy Toboggan, a number of restaurants. We're working with him right now on a skating rink in front.
Oh wow!
A pumpkin festival around Halloween. He's going to have a 26-foot pumpkin out there. Kids can go pick a pumpkin out of the patch if they ride the carousel or something. So there's some things we're working on. We think the fun in the city is going to be in our parks and in our waterfront. If you look at what's gone on. And then of course, the special events. Like, we're already working with the state for Massachusetts 250. Again, these are ideas. We're looking at having a little carnival right in that parking lot next to Heritage for a couple of weekends down around the 4th of July next year. And then really make it something special, some really high-end concerts. But these are all ideas. If we have our way, I mean, we're going to keep improving our parks. We're going to keep improving our waterfront, and we're going to give people plenty of opportunities to do things. Every year we do our Christmas show, and that's just spectacular. We sell that out most times, but it's something we're working on. We want to make the city have a vibrant arts and fun places. Like, go buy pickleball at Kennedy Park. I never even knew what pickleball was, but it's exploded. That place is so busy. The Narrows, they have, 200 shows a year. They fill the place all the time. Now we're getting restaurants in front with Primo's, and right up and down the waterfront, Barrett's, the Cove. These are all things that are coming together and go a little further. You got Morgan's Cantina and the Pier 52 and Tipsy Seagull. These things are all coming together to give us a waterfront and then to filter back into the city so that it is fun living in Fall River.
Yeah, it is.
And there is activity.
And I enjoy all of it, I'll be honest with you. Probably more than I should, to be honest with you. But with that said, Paul, so I think, me, I'm just a guy. I'm just a citizen. And I say to myself, I can identify the important things, right? And I say to myself, infrastructure has to be one of the most important things, right? Like, if you can't drive down the street and get where you're going, that's a problem, right? If you turn the faucet on and there's no water, that's a problem. Like electricity, that's a problem. And so, like, leading my question to you now is, obviously the city needs some help, right? The streets are in disarray, but there's always the construction happening. Do you see like a long-term plan, like something that's going to be maybe perpetual in the city and in the repairs and the infrastructure and some of these buildings?
Well, that is the plan. I mean, look right around the corner here, Bobby. You got that building on the corner of Columbia and North Main. It's just a complete mess. I got the schedule
I learned how to play accordion in that building. You know that? I was a child. Yeah.
I'm glad you got something
that
out
was
of it.
A long time ago, man. That was a long time ago.
It drives me nuts right now. But... And the capital improvement plan is a 5-year plan to do renovations in the cities.
Okay.
Right now, we have we've taken care of the Sylvia School on Hartwell Street, both with the fire and with the sale, to get that knocked down because that's a complete eyesore. The police department, I think last week or the week before, we disconnected the water and the sewerage. We're now going to start getting prices on knocking that building down. Columbia Street, which is going to be a huge project with new sidewalks and a beautification the whole way down, redoing that park right next to Santa Cristo. That was very simple. We met with the bishop, and I told him, you own that land. Those pavers are every direction but the right one. What are you going to do? Someone's going to break their neck. And he said, well, we don't want it. And he said, I said, well, you got to either fix it or sell it. He goes, you want me to sell it to you, Paul? I said, yeah, I want to sell it to me. He goes, what do you want to give me for it? I said, $1. He goes, you want to give me $1 for that? I said, I'm going to give you $1 because I'm going to put a lot of money into it. But and he said, I'll sell it to you for $1.
Wow.
So we bought that little square for $1, and you'll see progress going on there. The timeline starts in October. I thought it was going to be September, but they're not done Bedford Street. So there's a lot of work.
Any cool ideas for that?
Well, what we're going to do is, as you know now, it's a big like paver and with some like scruff trees in it. We're going to move the benches up halfway through it. Put some greenery in the back, and then cove the benches around so people can sit there and enjoy it. We are also thinking about putting some honorariums for some of the Portuguese people that have contributed so much to the community. We have a couple of buses that want to go in there. So there's a little historical piece. So if you're eating at Sog's or you walk up the street, you're going to be walking on a sidewalk that's got some cultural parts to it, so some of the pavers will be moved and some of them will be fixed, but that's going to be, I met with Victor today from Soggs. I said that street's going to be beautiful and done. And that's a key street in the city, just like we're doing Bedford Street now, just like we did Stafford Road. Those are huge streets that need work. I'm with you though. The side streets, I mean, I drove down Barnes the other day, and now that's on the list to be fixed. The streets we have to do, but we did more streets and sidewalks than any mayor not because Paul Coogan's brilliant, but because when the ARPA money came out, when we put work into our water pipes, part of the work was fix the street, do the sidewalks. So we coupled that money together, so we got a lot more done, but there's a ton more to do.
You know, I always think to myself, and this is just an idea, right? And I know you're an idea guy. You know, it'd be great to have local people doing that type of work. You know what I mean? I say to myself, wouldn't it be wonderful if, you know, Gonzalez on Quarry Street said that, hey, I want to work with the city, and, you know, maybe we give them the incentive to do so, you know, and,
Right.
and then they just continue this ongoing, you know, project to
Well,
just.
we use mostly Century and LAL. They're both Florida
Okay,
companies.
yeah, Century, yes, yeah,
They're
yeah,
both
yeah,
Florida companies. They do great work. Bisco's still another local. But with all public money projects, or most of the big ones, Bob, you got to put it out to bid.
Yeah, right.
And that's not, I mean, you can tell people, like when we did Durfee, we asked for a certain percent of the employees to be Fall River residents. So we hit them with that. We want you to hire from Fall
Yeah, that's
River.
what I'm talking about. Maybe
Right.
some incentive. Because
Right.
you know what, Paul? This is my home. And if I'm
Yeah.
going to do it,
The money stays here.
Yeah, I'm going to do it, man. You know what I mean? I love this place. And
Yep.
so I know that my pride is always here. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I think that we genuinely care about our own more than we do
Yeah.
everything else. You
For
know what I
sure,
mean?
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, I don't think people know this, but you're married to an Olympian.
Yeah, my wife is the famous one in the family. I'm a tag along.
Yeah. I was blown away by this. And so Barcelona.
We went to Barcelona.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was wild because I had obviously never been to the Olympics, and first in the United States, it's not a selection committee. You got to go make the team. So we went to New Orleans.
Yeah.
They tried to replicate the weather that was going to be in Barcelona, so it was in the 90s. It was just absolutely melting, and it was so hot in New Orleans that I think she did her first race. The trial was in Sunday, and I think the final was Friday. So we came home in between so she could get a massage and run in some cooler weather.
And this is the 10,000, right?
This is the
10,000?
10,000. So
Yeah.
anybody that doesn't know what that is, that's go up to Durfee or Diamond. That's 25 laps of the track. And it's a grueling race. When we got to Barcelona, she had her trials. She made it through to the final, which was just totally electric. Because the race right in front of her was the men's 100, which is one of the premier events. You could see Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, they're all coming in.
Jeez.
Because everybody comes for the 100. They went there for my wife's race. But the place was packed, and it was 25 laps. She hung in there the whole race, and then she kind of got dropped off the back. She ended up 7th or 8th in the finals, but
Good for her,
accelerated
man. Wow.
her standing so much. She did so great.
What an amazing life experience, right?
Well, and
Right?
then, yeah, she kept competing until she was in her 50s. That's why we didn't have kids. Plus, I had 600 kids hanging off me every day, so it kind of was.
Yeah, right.
I had my own kids up at Durfee, so I was fine with that because she did continue. And she right now, she's still a very, very competitive biker. She did like 75, 80 miles on Sunday.
No kidding.
Oh no, she can
I say
wheel.
it, behind every great man. That's a great.
Yeah,
that seems to be the pattern here.
She's the
You know what I
famous
mean?
one.
Yeah.
She keeps me grounded.
Lessons in leadership. Can we
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Tell me, is that something that you developed? Is that something that you used in the city, or
Lessons in leadership. I think what happens with leadership, okay, is it's kind of, well, like when you go to Durfee to go to work, I mean, I was not prepared for what was coming on. I was the first in-school suspension teacher, so you had to figure out a program. They just said, there's your room, and so we put something together.
Yeah.
And then I realized that those kids wanted someone to be both their friend and a leader. You have to be able to tell people, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. We're going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way. And you have to have confidence in your ability to guide others. So that was my first foundations. And then when I got into in-school suspension, I started working with the offices, and one of the vice principals said, listen, you should get yourself certified as a vice principal, which then meant you would get your own class of 500 kids. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting a job. First I went to a interim position in a couple of middle schools because they needed people. I didn't even apply for them. And then I got to Durfee, and
is that you knew when you got
yeah,
to
you know
it,
what you're doing, and you want people to follow you, but you wanted to lead with like strength, but a sense of humor, and you wanted to make sure you knew what you were doing, and you were prepared, and you were ready to go. Now we try to do that in the city also. I know people sometimes wonder what it's like, but it's truly a challenge. But I will tell you something. we had a young lady that worked for us, and she went up to work in the clerk's office in Newton, and she came back and she said, Fall River is so much better off than Newton. I'm like,
oh, wow.
She works in
Really?
the government sector. I was like, I
Okay.
fell off my chair,
Okay.
Bobby, and I'm like, because what happens with these jobs is you're so insulated. You know, I go to the mayor's meetings and things, but it's you're in your own bubble, and you work with your department heads and your people you depend on and your lawyers and this and that. But at the same time, you don't really know. You don't know how everything's coming off, and then you have to run for office every 2 years, and I'm interviewed by 11,000 people or many
Right.
voters, and
Right.
they make the call. It's up to them.
Yeah. How do you feel about that every 2 years? Because some would say
2 years is too short.
it's too short, right? Like, because you're constantly in that campaign mode. Some people are like, well, you should always be campaigning. I disagree.
No.
I think there needs to be some work time in
Focus on the
there,
work,
right?
that's
Some
right.
work time in there. And
Well, your first year after you're elected, you got some time to work. By the second year, everybody's on you. You're running again. What are you going to do? You need help. You don't need help. I don't like you. I love you. And it's just, you get into these things, and you really want to worry about whether Columbia Street's getting paved or not, or what's
Right,
going on
right.
at RPA, and is Durfee safe, and how are the kids at Watson? I mean,
Yeah.
and you know, what are we doing on the rail trail? There's just so many things going on that people don't understand, that you
Yeah.
just, and then they get frustrated with you, and you tell them you're
Mayor
sorry,
Coogan,
and you
hold
move
on.
on.
If you don't mind me saying so, these are individual problems, and
Right.
people are looking at these as an individual problem. They're not realizing that you're in charge of everybody's problem. You know what I mean? And so for me to have eyes on one particular situation, it's very easy for me to start and finish the whole thing. But when I have 30 things happening all at once, I only imagine that I have to rely on the people around me,
Right.
the leadership and people around me that are going to support me in this, you know, and I think people lose sight of that, you know?
They do lose sight of it, but it's the way it is. A friend of mine told me once. He goes, you know, he was a superintendent of a golf course. He said it's funny because as a superintendent of a golf course, I'm responsible for everything: the irrigation, the holes, the trees, the growth, this and that. But he said everybody tells me what to do because they cut their grass. So they get a little piece of it, but they don't know that there's so much more to managing a golf course than cutting the grass. There's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
work going on. And
Yeah.
it's like that in the city. There's so much going on. And I got to tell you, because I can't fathom becoming a mayor of a city if I was like an accountant or someone that lived on a schedule. Oh, I see Bobby at 9, I see Dave at 10. It doesn't work that way down there. It's just go, go, go all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you're home in bed and they call you to go to the Gabriel House fire. You're going. Someone has a serious accident. Someone at work gets injured. I mean, these things just come, and you just got to deal with them.
Right. Let me ask you this. You're surrounded with a lot of people around you. Who do you enjoy working with the most?
Well, I got Ann O'Neill Souza, the chief of staff. She's brutal to me. She tells me what to do all day long,
Yeah.
and I mean,
Well, these are
but
the
I've known-
unsung heroes.
She was
You're
my
right.
boss. She
Right.
was my boss when
Yeah.
I worked at People Inc. for a little while as a mentor recruiter,
Yeah.
and she was my boss there, and I've known her forever. Then you got, like, up on my floor, you got Mike Dion, you got Alan Rumsey, you got the superintendent of schools, you got the police chief, fire chief, you got EMS, you got EMA. These are all like key department heads. Glenn Hathaway, our building inspector, Danny Aggie. There's like a team of probably about 20 or 30 people that you have to depend on to go to work every day and know what they're doing. Their problems, every single one of them has problems. Every single one of them has issues. Most of them can tackle them, but sometimes they come to you and you got to get involved.
Yeah. That's great, though, right?
Yeah.
To have all those people around you, you know,
Yeah.
you think able people, and you say to yourself, you know, I'm surrounded by success.
And the thing about it is, it's funny because I just want you to know my salary is capped. So most of them make more money than me. And some people get offended by that, but I really don't care. I don't care. It doesn't have anything to do with money for me. I'm blessed because I have a pension after my 30 years in the schools, and I make a decent living. But I do every month, out of my check, which people, I tell the story, I have $2,000 automatically withdrawn that goes into what I call the Coogan Fund. I'll go to Maplewood Park, I'll give them $500. I'll give tickets, like this weekend SCA needed money, I give them a couple $100. I donate, I can bring in my checkbook. The list of people, I just spend the
people
money.
don't
out.
know this. People don't know this.
They
Yeah,
think you're
right.
doing it for, and it's not, you know. And again, I don't begrudge them because they don't have the ability I have. That's out of my pocket. I don't use campaign funds for that. That's my paycheck going out to others. And someone said to me, well, the Portuguese are mad about feast. St. Cecilia's Band Club donated to my campaign. My signs are on SCA.
Yeah.
Our Lady of Lights got my signs in front of her because I go visit those people and I'm engaged with them, and I'll do anything I can to help them to make those clubs successful, and they know it and they appreciate it.
And they show the support.
They do.
Which is
what you want.
But again, we talked about it at the beginning of the episode, 50-50. Everybody's 50-50. For every one person you make happy, there's somebody that's
you
not.
say yes to one, the other ones that
right.
are no. But there's a time. See, when you enter politics, to me, there's a time, there's a life to it. That's it. This is where you're going, and this is where it's going to end, and that's part of it. I mean, it's especially being a mayor, because you're under the gun all the time. You have the focus on you, but hey, I don't mind it. I'll do it as long as I can.
Well, you do it well, sir.
Thank
you. Do it well. So real quick, I mean, I was kind of walking us out of here, but I just wanted to talk about something. It's a little somber, but I think it's important that we discuss it, because I believe that it's something that's right in front of us right now. So on August 22nd, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee of the name of Irina Zarutska was on a train in Charlotte, North Carolina. 23 years old. My son's 23. So, watching, obviously not watching all of the video, but seeing exactly what happened, this poor young lady getting on a train, getting out of work, sitting down, and this is not in any way, shape, or form undermining what happened, but obviously, clearly, this is someone who is psychologically troubled, right? This individual has some serious psychological issues, right? How do we, as a population, as a citizen, say to ourselves, how do we prevent this from happening, right? How do we try to identify these individuals, because obviously there was a lot of trail here. This individual was involved and arrested a lot of times. It wasn't like it was a surprise once it happened, right? But then again, these people are just walking amongst us. And frankly, between you and I, since they shut down that Taunton, the hospital, like, there really hasn't been any place for these people to go. And I know it's a very sensitive subject, and I know it's hard to determine, but I think at the end of the day, the responsibility is to keep our citizens safe, especially if we're getting on a train. We just got a new train. Right. You know what I mean? Right. One, obviously devastating, right? But how do you see maybe managing people that maybe should not be in general?
Well, I think that was one of the great fallacies of the 70s when they went to the model you're talking about, Bobby, with what they called it was deinstitutionalization. Yeah. They thought giving someone a handful of pills was going to be a substitute for a warm bed, a counselor, a place to go where they're kind of contained. You don't have to lock them up, but you can make sure you keep them contained and give them the supports they need to exist. I tell people that all the time. When you're out on the rail trail or you're in a homeless camp, you run into people that are severely mentally disturbed. And I've told the governor this, I've told anyone that will listen. We need places for those people.
Amen. I'm glad to hear you say that.
We need,
appreciate that.
They do not belong. And it's not inhumane to tell someone, I'm sorry, you're going to have a bed, 3 meals a day, a place to go to exercise. We're going to give you a counselor. We want to work with you.
Yeah. Peace of life, though.
You're not
right?
Right. You're not ready.
Right.
You're not ready to be a part of. You're not ready to be part of society.
Right.
And that gentleman on that train did not belong out in society. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He didn't belong there, and that's exactly what happens.
Right.
And you see them. They're talking to bushes. Or one time we were down at Kennedy Park, and there was a guy playing with a $1 bill, and he couldn't stop it. And young kid, and I tried to talk to him, and he was just walking around with this dollar bill in his hand. And I was saying to myself, "You okay?" And I talked to one of the counselors, and they said, "No, he's in the throes of mental health issues."
Right.
And what we do, we don't give them any place to go. They can't function for themselves. And people are like, "Well, you got to get them out of the tents and get them." Where am I putting them? Tell me. I'll take them there today.
Right.
One of our programs we do with the people that are in the severe drug issues, we will literally take you out of the rail trail or take you out of a tent, send you to detox, put you in a step-down program, and then pay for 6 months of sober living. We'll pay for everything because we're using the opioid money we got from the Sackler settlement.
Yeah.
So we'll take grant money, not taxpayers' money, grant money to cover these people. And we have 100 people we've gotten into that program. 40 are successfully cleaned up right now, but we know they can relapse. 25 are still in sober living, and the other 30-something we lost. But they're going to get another crack. But I just don't understand how the state, when they were talking about Concord prison for migrants, I'm saying that's where we should take all the doors off, so we're not letting people think we're keeping them locked up.
Right.
But that's a place we could put some people.
Sure.
They need, look what's going on in Boston at Mass and Cash.
Yeah.
They said they gave out 800,000 needles up there last year. That is amazing. But these people are dying and they're struggling.
It's almost like the impossible answer, right? Like you could come up with every possible solution, and there's something that just again, Nikki Fontaine was sitting there, and I will say she had the greatest thing to say. I don't know if you had an opportunity to listen to that episode, but if you have a chance, please do so. She had the greatest things to say about you, the support that you provide her. Going through this process with her every 2 years, she knows, she's got to deal with it. She's like, Mayor Coogan's always been there for me. She's like, anytime I've ever reached out to him, she's like, I can call him any time of the day. She's like, I throw these ideas at him. She actually mentioned the sober houses and how you guys discovered that there was something. And so, the idea that you're all working together, everybody's working together. And I think it's important for people to know that there's a lot going on in the background. But again, it's never enough, right?
No.
We can always say it's never enough. But in this case, I like to say to myself, I love the city,
right.
Mayor Coogan. I genuinely love this place. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing this. And, it's amazing to me to have you sitting in that chair. And it took me only 95 episodes to get here, right?
That's all right.
But I'm so grateful for that. And, I just want you to know that there are people that appreciate the hard work and effort and sacrifice that you make.
If you want to live on Facebook, God bless you. Mm-hmm. None of that stuff is verified.
Yeah.
None of it's real. I have no problem with using it to attract people to events, get people to get involved, reach out. But as far as a news thing and what they say over there, I think it's hysterical. My wife gets mad, but I don't really care because I grew up, I shouldn't say I grew up, I was already grown up, but I grew up in Durfee where if I had an argument with a kid about going to class or something, seriously, you go down the hall and he'd write Coogan, blah, 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 blah on the bathroom wall. Mm-hmm. And you'd ask the kid if he wrote it and he'd just stare at you and laugh because you couldn't do anything. Right. That's Facebook to me.
Right.
And I mean, it doesn't bother me. I understand. And you know what? I really don't even care because if it makes them feel better and somehow it gives them an outlet to express their frustrations about whatever's going on in their life, they could use me. I'd much rather have them bug me than other people that work in the city or the other guys. But it doesn't really bother me. People say, "How the heck do you do it?" It's just expected. There's a certain element when you go out to campaign. You're never going to get 25, 30% of the vote, no matter if you cure cancer. Mm-hmm. So you might as well accept it. And if that makes them feel better, God bless them. I hope it does. I don't wish bad on them. I just know that they're not really telling the facts. If they were telling the facts, go ahead.
Well, I think a conversation is appropriate, right? If I don't agree with your policies, then let's have a conversation about it instead of making accusations and just throwing stuff out
making
there.
Stuff up. I mean, like I said, my wife gets all ticked off, but I'm like, that's not even true. I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but hey, it makes them feel better. So I guess it's like watching Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So here comes so September and then November, right? You're the mayor again. It's November. What's your vision for the waterfront? I know we've talked about it, and I know you've mentioned a couple of things.
The vision for the waterfront is going to have to be, we're going to have to settle up who's going to take care of the disbursement of the property. Is it going to be the state? Is it going to be the redevelopment authority? The redevelopment authority, as you know, did a ton of work up in the industrial park. Mm-hmm.
Real quick, could you talk about the benefits of that? Why would we want that? What do you think?
More local control. Yeah. I mean, I got a great working relationship with the state, whether it's Senator Rodrigues or any of our representatives, Viola, Sylvia, so that we are going to have input. And, it's funny, again, the other day they were criticizing me for talking about the party in control in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. I get along great with Governor Healy, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll. I mean, our legislative delegations, they're all right on my phone. You can take a look at it if you think I'm kidding you. So I talk to these people. But that's the biggest project in the history of Fall River. And we want it done with a lot of local input. And that's all I'm trying to stress to people. Mm-hmm. But people understand, whatever we decide to do, what's going to be housing, what's going to be retail, what's going to be commercial, where is the parking decks going to go? Is it flat parking? Is there a deck? Mm-hmm. What's going to go into green spaces? Is it a gazebo? Is it a little sound garden? What are we going to have that's going to make that a walkable, livable community with a train on one side to go to Boston if you have to, and water on the other side to get into a boat. But if everybody just takes a deep breath, no matter what happens, Fall River's going to win. We are going to win this fight. We're going to have a beautiful, vibrant new neighborhood right in along our waterfront, similar to what's going on up at Twelly Street in Kilburn with the houses and the mill. We're going to have something right there that's going to be special for our city for the next 100 years. And that's how I look at it. We're not going to lose.
Yeah. Do you see any more medical? Do you see any more medical industry?
I do see medical going in there. I see some medical because that's still a growing area. I mean, we have and what comes with medical, good paying jobs, a healthy workforce generally that wants to go grab a coffee, get on a train, go to Boston, go to Mass General, come back. So there's going to be some tremendous linkage going on down there, and people have to understand that. I think you're going to see medical. Matter of fact, we're going to have an announcement about something shortly. But again, housing, restaurants, there's that's a perfect fight. Do we let in chain restaurants? Do we go to the chains, or do we go with people that are like Sogs or Caravella, local restaurants that come in and have a spot down there too? Sure. So those are all discussions that we're going to have. I'd like everybody. We've had 2 or 3 public hearings on the plan. People came into the atrium and offered ideas. We're going to be fine. People are going to have an input. But just remember, we're only talking about how we're going to win. We're going to win this. This is going to be a big.
What a great argument conversation to have.
That's
right.
What it is. We're going to win this.
Yeah.
We're going to win this, and the city's going to be better off. Things are going to be great. Look at what's going on down there now with the new roads and how you can see it laying out and the period lighting, and it's going to be very special.
What are you most proud of?
Well, see, that's a trap question, Bobby. You caught me now.
So,
there's so many, because when I leave something
I know.
When I leave here, they're going to say, that guy didn't say
You know
this.
what, though? And I'm asking you. I'm asking Paul
I like
Coogan.
the way we, I hate to focus on the negative, but I like the way we tackled COVID. I like the way we tackled the Gabriel House fire. I love the way we built the new Durfee. I like the way 79's coming out. I like what's going on right now on Lewiston Street with the renovation of that old facility. So I look at things like that. Most proud of the fact that I got a great team. We work together. Yeah. The local officials, whether it's the city council, the school committee, with a few exceptions, we work hard together to try to improve everything. You look at the buildings in the Fall River Public Schools. We had guests come down from Lynn, and their heads were spinning about our facilities versus theirs. And I'm talking about elementary, middle, and high. So they know what we have in our city. Do we have work to do? Absolutely.
Sure.
And that's all coming.
Right.
But, I'm most proud of the way Fall River rebounds from crisis, and we all work together.
Yeah. I appreciate that. You're here on that one. Yeah. I love that. Because we are a thriving city. Yeah, we are resilient. And no matter what they throw at us, we always come back. We always come back stronger. And I think from the meager beginnings, my Vavoo came here from the Azores, and they owned the house literally across the street from where we are right now.
Oh, really?
My Vavoo owned the storefronts. So this is all real for me.
You're home then, Bobby.
Right? Yeah, I am home, sir. I am home. And so it's like, for me to be here, sitting with you, having this conversation, Mayor Coogan, it's outside of what I thought possible at being so young and so little, right? Because you look at the struggle. We all worked so hard, right? If you didn't work, you had nothing, right? That's what we were taught. And to finally get here and to be in a space in my life where I can sit down and have a conversation and tap into your journey, sir, like, this is what it's all about, man. And I just want people to know that it's possible. You just have to work for it. You know what I mean?
The kids, I was doing a walk through the 2 days ago at the alternative school to see how that's going, and I tell kids that's I remember standing on the street corner with my buddies, and I said, gee, if I can just make $300 a week, I'll live a good life forever and ever and ever. But it doesn't work like that.
Right.
Whatever's coming's coming, and if you can get prepared that you're going to be okay, but you got to be ready to work, and you got to be ready to find a job you're both good at and you enjoy, and you'll be fine. And I try to tell people, just relax. We're going to be fine.
All right. I got one more question,
Sure.
and I know David has a question for you, but my last question is, who was your favorite past mayor?
Oh, God. My favorite, I kind of like John Mitchell. I still see him a lot. He gives me advice once in a while. But again,
Oh,
another
no kidding.
trap
So you guys
question.
talk. That's no, really. That's a great. I only mention that because
Eddie
I have my
Lambert, I
favorites
still
too.
talk to.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Carlton. My wife's in love with Carlton Viveris.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for her to leave me and run off with Carlton because every time we go to a function or anything, she ends up talking to Carlton, and I'll come over to say a word, and they're both pushing me away. So, but it's no. Carlton was great too. So I mean, I do talk to former mayors, whether it's Carlton, Eddie, or John, but they all offer input.
You know, people don't know that. You know, to tap into the past,
Oh,
right?
no,
I mean, that's
no.
right. That's the fountain of youth. That's the fountain of youth right
Absolutely.
there. And I love to hear that you're talking with them and that they offer you
Oh,
advice.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
so important. It really matters. David, you have a question for the mayor?
I do.
All right.
How you doing, Mayor?
There's David.
So, a little while ago, Bobby asked you, well, what was one thing you were proud of, your most proud moment being mayor of the city of Fall River? Is there something that you could go back during your 6 years and change? Like let's say, for instance, obviously something that, let's say decisions were made and you thought there was going to be an outcome and it wasn't the outcome. Is there anything that you can go back or would like to go back and change?
Well, without naming names, I would not do that. Some personnel decisions,
David.
you think someone's going to step up and it doesn't work out.
Ugh.
You both hurt for them because they weren't successful, and you hurt for the organization because it turns into upheaval. But you don't. Yeah, again, you don't wish bad on them. When you put someone in a place of leadership, then you want them to do better, and that's, you know, it could be the schools, it could be public safety, it could be the streets. Whatever you do, you want them to be successful, and you want them to work out. But if they don't, then you got to move on and try to do what's best for the city. And
I'm struggling with that right now. I'm
It's
I'm
painful.
in the middle of that right now. That's amazing that you would say that.
It's
Yeah.
painful.
It is hard. It's
It's
very
hard.
hard.
And you know, because a lot of these people, I've known them, and they're friends, and you work with them.
Yes.
Then if
yes.
you don't know them, you work with them, you say, boy, this guy's doing well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you find out it's not that way, and you're in
Right.
a position where
Right.
you got to make a tough call. And that would be the number one part of the job that I think where I could have done better. I would have worked harder to find out if that person was the right fit, or am I putting someone in the right place to be successful, which is all you want for them
Of
and
course.
for the city.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
Wow, great answer. Good, Dave? Awesome. So real quick, before we walk out of here, I'd love to give you the opportunity to speak to the Fall River citizen and say anything you would like.
Well, you know, it's funny. I go out and I have to do this every 2 years. You can tell I'm not negative. I guess my opponents have to be negative to try to win votes, but I still think that you can win a hell of a lot more votes if you say what you're going to do and how you're going to make the city better. And you never know. Maybe you'll give me an idea. But at the same time, we got a real hard-working team down there. We show up every day to work. We do our best for the city. There is an absolute ton of positive things going on in our city. Do not discount them. We have people that want to locate here. After we're off the air, I'll show Bobby a couple of great articles out of the Globe.
Sure.
People want to move to Fall River. People want to live here. They want to bring their families here, and they want to be successful here. And I will do everything I can to facilitate that and make sure it's important to our community to grow, bring in fresh minds, fresh money, fresh children. They all have to be fresh to make us a better place to live. And if they pitch in and help to grow Fall River, it's going to be important. And I would like to lead this city for, right now, 2 more years is what I'm looking for. You know me.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever lost a primary or an election. And if you could be nice enough to vote for me again, I really would appreciate it. And if you listen to this today, I appreciate that too. So thank you very much.
I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for making the time to come in. I know you're a super busy guy. I know you got a busy evening. Like you're nonstop. Your schedule is pretty tight. And so the idea that you would come in and give us this opportunity to tap into your journey,
No
I'm
problem.
very
Anytime.
grateful. You know, I'd love to have you come back in.
Yeah, and we'll try to get you up to Durfee.
Yeah,
Take a
absolutely.
walk with me.
100%, Mayor Coogan. And I would love to get in. Maybe we get into the young Paul Coogan, right?
No, you don't want to do that. That would be, you better call that Nightmare on Prospect Street. That's not, you don't want to do that, Bob.
You know, I'm always interested in the journey of great leaders, man, because you are a great leader, and you know, the city is very fortunate to have people stepping up to the plate that genuinely care.
Well, that's the thing. I got to understand. I mean, I was a kid. I grew up in a family with 11 brothers and sisters on Prospect Street in Fall River. Everybody graduated from Durfee, and I tell everybody the same story, which they've got to understand how important it is. You know, my parents, we never had, because you're feeding 11 mouths, you don't have a lot of money. But at the same time, they gave us all a work ethic, and everyone in my family worked and was successful at holding a job, working hard, and getting things done. Glitches along the way, plenty of them. I'm not saying that, but they all had a foundation based on the ability to go to work and be successful, and that was one of the number one failings I saw in my job at Durfee High School. The inability to instill a work ethic into some kids. The reading, the writing, the math would have all come if you just could have gotten them to understand how important it was to get involved and make sure you're busy and you want to work. Some kids didn't want to do it, and it was they wouldn't work in class, they wouldn't work at work, and they wouldn't work at home, so it was hard. And I wish they understood the importance of it. But hey, we do the best we can.
The universe has a funny way of kickstarting people. You know what I mean? It's,
it does.
it
kicked me.
Right. We all get it at some point or another. And some are later in life, and some are fortunate enough to get it when they're young. You know what I mean? Me, unfortunately, I got it later in life. But either way, I made it.
Better late than never, Bobby.
Yeah.
Believe
Mayor Paul Coogan, thank you so much for being here, sir. Good
me.
luck to you. I hope
you.
I can call you friend, sir, and I hope to get you back in the studio again. Maybe soon after we get all this noise. Maybe we can talk about some of the projects that you have in place. We go over to Durfee. Maybe we do a walkthrough there, and I'd love to check that out and maybe grab some lunch, man.
We can eat right at Durfee.
I appreciate you, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Good luck.
Yep.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right. Everybody, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show. We are so grateful that you're here to experience this monumental moment for the show. Once again, we appreciate you. And remember, always remember that all roads lead here.